Do you know the story of the man who used to save newborn girls from being buried alive by their fathers? The title of today's video is the story of Zayd ibn Amr. You see, during the time of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, Mecca was a city of paganism. People used to worship idols and rocks and sacrifice animals for them and bury their own daughters and do all kinds of barbaric things. And the majority of the people of Mecca did stuff like this, but one day, after a huge festival dedicated to the idols ended, there was 4 people left there. And those 4 people who stayed after that festival realized that they all believed the same thing. That all of them did not believe in the idols everyone else worshipped, but that instead they wanted to be hunafa, people who turned away from idols and followed the way of Ibrahim alayhi salam. These 4 men were Ubaydullah ibn Jahsh, Uthman ibn al-Huwayrith, Waraq ibn Nawfal, and Zayd ibn Amr. Waraq ibn Nawfal, by the way, was the cousin of Khadija radiallahu anha, who was the priest who talked to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So these 4 men went and traveled and learned to find the true way of Ibrahim alayhi salam. And all of them became Christian, except for Zayd ibn Amr. Zayd ibn Amr was not impressed by Christianity or Judaism, and he would argue with rabbis and priests and say, you know that this is not the way of Ibrahim alayhi salam. But he studied and traveled and gathered as much beneficial knowledge as he could. And when Zayd ibn Amr went back to Mecca, Asma binti Abi Bakr reported that he would have his back to the Kaaba and say, by Allah, none amongst you are on the religion of Ibrahim except me. He would say the animal is created by Allah and its sustenance is created by Allah, but you kill it in the name of your idols. And he would reject the meat of Quraysh in Mecca because it was slaughtered in the name of idols. He said, stay away from adultery and stay away from drinking. And back then they used to bury their daughters alive as they saw them as a shame to the family. But Zayd ibn Amr would go at night to such places and convince their fathers so that he can adopt them himself and raise the girls himself. When the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam was just a young man, he asked Zayd ibn Amr, why is it that your people hate you so much? And Zayd ibn Amr told him, it's because I left their religion and their idols for the religion and God of Ibrahim alayhi salam. So how did Quraysh respond? They saw him as a madman. You see, the uncle of Zayd ibn Amr was Al-Khattab, the father of Umar ibn al-Khattab, and he would beat up Zayd ibn Amr. And eventually Zayd ibn Amr died 5 years before the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ received revelation. But who was the son of Zayd ibn Amr? His son was Sa'id ibn Zayd radiallahu anhu, one of the 10 companions of the Prophet ﷺ who were promised paradise. And do you remember when Umar went to kill the Prophet ﷺ, but he ended up going to his sister's house and beating up her husband? Well, her husband was Sa'id ibn Zayd. So just like Al-Khattab beat up Zayd ibn Amr, Umar ibn al-Khattab beat up Sa'id ibn Zayd. Sa'id eventually asked about the fate of his father. The Prophet ﷺ said to him that Zayd ibn Amr would be resurrected on the Day of Judgment as a one-man ummah.